What is going on YouTube? Lamont at large. Today I am on Long Island, New York. We're going to talk about the unsolved car bombing murder of Detective Dennis Wustenhoff. So right now, walking down the street here in Patchogue, Long Island, New York. A very quiet neighborhood, very unassuming. You got a lot of modest houses here, probably a working class neighborhood, very quiet, unassuming. I would never guess that this neighborhood was anything but. On the afternoon of February 15th, 1990, this neighborhood is where the Wustenhoff family used to live. Detective Dennis Wustenhoff, he was around a 20-year veteran of the Suffolk County Police Department. At the time that he was working for the Suffolk County Police Department, he was working undercover in the narcotics section of the police department. He would work undercover. I'm going to buy some drugs. Surprise, I'm an officer. Turn around, you're under arrest. Now, when you do those kinds of jobs where you are the police, you are working undercover, you are making friends with known drug dealers, and you're arresting them after they quote unquote trusted you. How dare you arrest me for committing this crime? You're going to have a lot of enemies. But what happened on that afternoon on February 15th, 1990, he must have had some major enemies, or at least one major enemy. So on that day, Detective Wustenhoff got into his unmarked white Cadillac. That's what he used when driving around buying dope or what have you. And he got into the vehicle, turned the ignition to start up his vehicle to get to work, and the loudest explosion that you would ever want to hear occurred, ricocheting lots of screws and nails and other bomb components up into Mr. Wustenhoff's body. A lot of neighbors, when they heard the explosion, maybe they thought it was a car backfiring at first. However, when they came out and they seen the car, the smoldering ruins that it was, they seen that Mr. Wustenhoff was covered in blood. He was still alive. And immediately they called 911, and paramedics, police, fire department, they both came out, and they seen that Dennis was in very, very bad shape. They immediately put on these, it's called the anti-shock trousers. Basically, anybody that suffers any kind of explosive injury is basically like a blood pressure cuff, but for your lower extremities, is basically keeping your blood pressure in check. So they put that on him and they rushed him to the hospital. Now, he was alive for 3 hours, and immediately he was concerned about his wife and his kids. And for 3 hours, can you imagine the unbridled pain and agony that he went through, having all of that metal, all of that shrapnel blown out into his lower extremities and his torso. And the doctors tried all they could to save Dennis's life, but on that day, he succumbed to his injuries. And this is the home right in the middle of your screen where the bombing occurred, right in the front of the house. It is definitely not a common occurrence when somebody is killed with a car bomb, especially when it's a police officer. Now, me coming across this story that was sent to me by Scarlett, I immediately said, okay, this is a mafia hit. This guy was in with the mafia and he didn't do something that they wanted him to do, so they took him out. But after reading a little bit about the story, it seems that the main suspect that committed this crime is very apparent to the Suffolk County Police Department. However, after over 30 years, this case still remains unsolved. Anytime a crime is committed where explosives are used, automatically the FBI and or the agents of the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Agency is going to take over the case from whatever local jurisdiction where the crime was committed. Now, this investigation, of course, because it was a police officer involved crime, the Suffolk County Police Department, not saying that they had superseded jurisdiction over the investigation, but this was a combined investigation between the police department and both agencies, I believe. And after not too much digging, you know, you're talking to the children of Dennis, you're talking to his wife, Fran, and of course, you're going to be asking them, all right, hey, listen, we know that he was an undercover narcotics officer. You're going to develop a lot of enemies doing this kind of work. Maybe a lot of the police officers investigating this felt that, okay, this was a mid-level drug seller. He found out where he lived. He had some kind of an extensive knowledge of explosives, and he killed him. But after interviewing his wife, is there anybody that threatened him? Is there anybody that they didn't like him getting away from his line of work? Well, yeah, there's a guy that, kind of sort of indirectly threatened him, and his name is Robert Horan. Okay, who's Robert Horan? Who is this guy? He is a police officer. He works for the Nassau County Police Department. Okay, so why do you think he would want to possibly harm Dennis? Well, come to find out that Dennis was having an extramarital affair with Robert's wife, Nancy. Okay, that would kind of make it apparent that if you sleep with another man's wife, he's not going to take too kindly to that. He's going to get a little bit upset, maybe a lot upset, maybe enough to want you dead. It just so happens that right after the murder, when Robert Horan's name came up, he happened to be out of town on vacation with his family in Cooperstown, New York. So they go up there and they go talk to this guy, right? They're like, hey, did you know that Detective Wustenhoff was murdered via a car bomb that somebody placed under his car? And he says, wow, that's crazy. I had no idea. And they're like, okay, so did you have anything to do with it? He's like, oh, no, of course not. Oh, okay, all right. And so they leave. And they're talking to his neighbors, and they describe Officer Horan the same way they describe Detective Wustenhoff. Great guys, great family, men. Okay. But something is weird. These cops, they feel that this guy had something to do with Dennis's murder. Number one, this guy, Robert Horan, he worked with the Emergency Services Bureau section of the Nassau County Police Department, and he received training in what now? What did he receive training in? Wow, bomb detonation and explosives. So this guy has a somewhat of an intimate knowledge with bomb making, bomb components, detonating bombs. He has access to all of the materials that he would need to make this bomb. He knows how to make bombs because that was his job. So these cops are like, hey, I think this guy did this murder. So they get a search warrant. They go into his house with a bomb-sniffing dog. And of course, he's anticipating this. And they didn't really find anything. They didn't really find anything. And they're like, wow. They just didn't have enough evidence to bring about prosecuting him. No, they didn't believe that they believed that a grand jury would indict him. They believed they could at least get that. But they had absolutely no evidence that he committed this murder other than the fact that he worked for the Emergency Services Bureau of the Nassau County Police Department. And yeah, he had an intimate knowledge of bomb components, bomb making, all of that stuff. And Detective Wustenhoff was killed via a bomb. You basically slept with a bomb maker's wife. And just the ridiculousness of that, in my opinion, and not being able to arrest him. Hey, could you get a jury of 12 men and women to convict this guy of Dennis's murder? They don't know. And last time I heard, Officer Horn was moved to desk duty, and that's it. It's been 31 years later as the recording of this video, and more than likely, unless somebody talks, somebody says something, it's just going to be one of those, unsolved murders. So right now we're pulling into Dennis's final resting place. So let's go take a look. Detective Wustenhoff is interred at one of the mausoleums here at the Calverton National Cemetery here on Long Island. And I believe he is right there. As I said earlier in the vlog, he had served in Vietnam, and a lot of Vietnam vets got cancer from all that Agent Orange that they would use, and he was a cancer survivor. And it's a damn shame that he was killed the way he was, to suffer for 3 hours of your life, just your half of your body practically blown up. Thank you for your service, sir. As I'm heading out of the cemetery, this is one of the most odd and unusual unsolved murders I've ever read about, because the main suspect, Robert Horn, who more than likely is responsible for Detective Dennis Wustenhoff's death, he had a very good reason for wanting him dead, and to kill him the way he did with an explosive device, and him being intimately in detail knowing how these devices worked and how to build them, and having the access to the components to build one. It's amazing that basically everybody knows this guy did it. However, absolutely not a shred of evidence, other than it's quite apparent. Anyways, there is a $60,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of, the person who we all know is responsible for this murder. If anybody has any information about Dennis's murder, please call the Suffolk County Police Department, 631-852-6392, or you can call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-220-TIPS, 1-800-222-8477. And last, before I end the video, to Robert Horn, Mr. Horn out there, if you are still alive, which I believe you are, hey, you literally got away with murder. You literally got away with it, and be damned, hey, what are you gonna do? You did it. Good job. You murdered a man, took a man away from his children and his wife for an act of indiscretion that, it was a bad thing, but to murder him the way you did, or the way you probably did, yeah, we all know what's up, man. We're not stupid. But just remember, every dog has his day. Every dog has his day. Catch up with you on the next vlog, guys. Peace out.